You want to make the top 8. You're this close. These players have a chance to do it, and they want to capitalize.
All right, well, let's take a look at some of these feature matches that we have coming up for the next round, because a heck of a lot is on the line. We're going to start things out here with Nicole Tipple versus Lucas Duchow, Four-Color Legends versus Esper Midrange. Tell me about what the stakes in this match are.
So the stakes at this one, just a perfectly clean win and in. The winner will be in the top 8 playing tomorrow. Loser for sure will not be. As clean-cut as it gets for this match.
All right, so that is our first win and in. We have another win and in right after that, right? Javier Dominguez, Arne Huschenbeth.
Yep, absolutely. 11 wins right now, being at 33 points. You get to 36, you are automatically locked in. Javier, Arne Huschenbeth, another win and in.
All right, Esper Midrange mirror happening in that match too.
Yep.
Check it out, Karl, Sarap, and Yuta, Takahashi. Tell me about this one.
Yeah, so this one's a little bit different records here. We see the 11-4 and the 10-3-2. That is 33 points versus Yuta's 32 points. Doesn't matter. 35 points is locked for the win and in, so this is another clean win and in.
Wow, 3 win and ins in a row.
Yep.
All right, let's check this out here. Greg Michael versus Etienne Eggenschweiler.
Yep.
Four-Color Legends mirror teammates here. Tell me about this one. We've already said we have 3 win and ins, so what the heck's going on here?
Yep, that is, we've already had 5 players locked. That is 6, 7, and 8 for the other 3 win and ins. So what has to happen for either of these players to make it in, there has to be either an intentional or unintentional draw at the first 3 tables that we were talking about. We already know that these players are already sat down, so there's no intentional draw. But of course, win and in Magic kind of slows down, so it's not crazy to think that there could be an unintentional draw, and then the winner of this could sneak in.
Yeah, we do have a lot of draws that have happened so far this tournament.
Standard's very grindy, so this stuff can just happen in this format for sure.
Absolutely, and if one of those people makes it in, that would mean 3 of the members of the team Sanctum all in the top 8. Which is just incredible performance
Unreal.
From that young
They've
team.
dominated this Pro Tour, really.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, let's turn our attention to our main feature, the first match we're going to show you this round, everybody. I'm very, very excited to show you Nicole Tipple and Lucas Duchow here, Four-Color Legends for Nicole. Esper Midrange for Lucas Duchow. Nicole, we've been saying it all weekend long, it's her very first Pro Tour. To get this far is an immense accomplishment. She says she saw the Pro Tour at MagicCon Philly and knew she wanted to compete, so what did she do? She learned to play Modern in 9 days and went to the RC in Denver and qualified. That is legend status right there.
That is legend status. Now she's just got to say, all I want to do is just be a part of a Pro Tour top 8. Easy,
yeah,
done.
See, how hard can it be?
Yeah.
She's going to have to get through Lucas Duchow, though, who's an absolute killer on Magic Online. In fact, he qualified via the Mox leaderboard to play in this tournament.
Yep.
Top 8 of the 2023 Mox Showcase Season 3. Yep. Wisconsinite, so another Midwestern here.
There you go. We got to love that. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Duke 1-2 on Magic Online. If you ever played against them, yeah, absolutely a crusher.
All right, so tell me about the decks in this match.
Yeah, so first let's start with Nicole's deck. This is the Four-Color Legend. This is kind of the deck of the tournament, I would really say. I mean, this deck is extremely awesome. We have Rona, Relic of Legends. You're trying to get this mid-rangey feel here to take advantage of Plaza of Heroes, as well as have this combo finish where it is a lot of combo pieces, of course, but you are able to combine Relic, a couple Honest Rustines, the Drain effect, as well as the Rona, and you can just drain your opponent out full stop. But for the most part, this is just a good old-fashioned mid-range deck. And then on the other side, we have Lucas here. This is Esper Midrange. This list is a little bit different than the traditional list we see. We see Nathan Stoyer's card here, the Duelist of the Mind, as well as Preacher of the Schisms being played, instead of other card choices like Wedding Announcement that we saw from maybe Javier and Simon last round. But yeah, Esper Midrange, the top deck up against the cooler deck, I will say, I guess.
So Corey, I got to get a prediction from you.
I think Nicole is going to play in her first Pro Tour, and I think she's going to be advancing to the Sunday stage on her first Pro Tour. That's my take.
All right, let's see what happens. This deck is known to be good against Esper Midrange. I'm going to send things over to Riley and Cedric here for the final round of Swiss.
Thank you very much, Maria. We're very excited here in the booth to get underway with what is, as Maria said, the final round of the Swiss portion of this tournament. My name's Riley Knight. I'm joined by the inestimable Cedric Phillips.
Here I am.
And we're going to get stuck in to what promises to be an electric match between these two players. We've got Nicole Tipple, Lucas Duchow as well, playing for a clear-cut win-and-in slot in our top 8. And I know that there'll be ferocious supporters of each player around the world. Wherever you're watching, we're deeply appreciative of your company here as we round out coverage of the Swiss portion here in Seattle. It's been very exciting to see Nicole do so very, very well in her first Pro Tour And I tell you what, the precedent has been set with players like Jake Beardsley. First PT, he won the whole thing.
It really has been over this past year or so. Jake Beardsley winning, of course, Pro Tour to Lord of the Rings. Nicole making her debut and having a lot of fun doing so. One of these players is going to make the top 8. I can't wait to see what it's going to be.
Both players on a mulligan to 6 here. Lucas going to open things up with the tap land back over to Nicole, whose hand looks pretty good. Pretty good with a Rona in it. Plaza of Heroes Otawara as well as some early interaction. So if Lucas's opening is more creature heavy, Nicole's going to be in a good spot. But as we can see, Lucas's opening is a little more land heavy.
Yes, it is. One could argue maybe too land heavy. Now, I do believe one of those lands does cycle in Rafine's Tower, but yes, it is a very, very land heavy hand, and actually just a Caves of Koilos and passing the turn back. So Lucas is not getting on the battlefield in any meaningful way just yet.
Nice draw as well here for Nicole. Finds a Titania, although can't cast it. Has the Aklizots as well, in addition to Otawara Growth Throat cut down. Lots of action in her hound. Cut down from Lucas. Didn't cycle the Rafine. Oh, did cycle the Rafine's Tower. Still has another one in hand. Sorry, excuse me. Fairy Mastermind also off the top here for Lucas, as we see Titania, Voice of Gaia, played by Nicole. And is she going to play this Otawara? Yes, continuing to develop her mana here. Cycling away another tower here is Lucas, rather than playing out the Fairy Mastermind. A piece of interaction for him. And another Fairy Mastermind as well, Cedric.
So Lucas, thanks to the cycling of those Rafine's Towers, has actually found something to do. That is some of the power of this deck, of course, is that the lands, well, they do fix, but they also do cycle as well. So Lucas, with a mulligan to 6 this game, and not the best of opening hands, but the land cycling has certainly helped kind of fill out the draw.
This is really nice here for Nicole as well, who's able to play a Titania and keep up that single black mana to deal with anything that Lucas plays, like this Fairy Mastermind. And also Aklizots, the Bat God, in hand for Nicole, so the action's going to continue from her. Any reason not to cast the cut down there?
What are we cutting down?
The Fairy Mastermind?
No. I don't think there's a reason to or not to. Just there's no rush.
All right.
At least not yet.
A second one here.
Now there may be some interest.
Yeah.
He's killing one of them.
One card? Yeah. I'm going to kill both of them.
Right. Killing one here before... Oh, no, both. Yep. Yeah, right. Before they can be activated to draw extra cards. All right, well, Nicole picking her moment there very judiciously. Think of those fairies off the battlefield. And Lucas back to stone nothing, just the cut down in hand. Nicole on the other hand. Beseiju, the pickup for her. And are we going to see Aklizots played here? Yes, we are. All right, okay. So Nicole's really putting some pressure on now.
The game has changed now. Before, there was just a lot of exchanging of resources, play a creature, kill a creature, so on and so forth. But now Nicole has best threats on the battlefield. Well.
And look at this. Lucas recognizing that he's been outstripped very quickly. That is an early concession from him. And Nicole goes one game up. Nicole Tipple, in her first ever Pro Tour, is one game away, Cedric, from securing a slot in the top 8. What do we think of her hand here?
Any nerves is my question. Hand's fine. I mean, 2-drop, 3-drop, you know, you could argue NT and Relic are the best 2 cards in this deck, are certainly among the best. Now, one of them's not going to resolve there thanks to No More Lies, but this is a very keepable hand here for Nicole. We'll see how the draw steps go, but definitely a keepable one.
But a good hand on the other side as well for Lucas. He plays out the Rafine here on turn 3, which is exactly what Esper's looking to do. However, Nicole, Relic of Legends, very strong in this deck. I would say Lucas, however, a little bit more momentum, a little bit more wind in his sails at this stage, as he is able to untap and attack with Rafine. A good spot for him.
Yeah, this looks a little bit more like what Esper Midrange should be doing. The last game feels like a bit of an anomaly. I know it was a mulligan to 6. Top of the deck wasn't particularly kind, but this is a more normalized draw here for Lucas.
Following it up with a Preacher of the Schism. Yeah, I think Lucas's keep on 6 there was a little... Well, it was optimistic. It's
a 6-card hand.
It was a 6-card hand, a lot of lands, and if you drew well, then it would have been a different game.
Also, a couple of lands did cycle in the Rafine's Tower, so I can understand keeping it. It certainly didn't pan out, that's for sure.
No, it did not. All right, we've got to go for the throat here in Nicole's hand, which can be deployed thanks to those relics. That may happen before the old 2-4 gets to attack here. Preacher of the Schism. Not played in all of the Esper decks, Cedric, but still a pretty powerful card.
Yeah, Preacher of the Schism on a general level is a pretty powerful card. However, it is not the card of this particular weekend. It is underperformed, excuse me, a little bit this weekend compared to what its ceiling is. You know, there are times where Preacher can define a metagame, given its 2/4 Death Touch body. This has not been the weekend for that card, however.
All right, Rafine Connives discards a Caves of Coiler, so isn't going to pick up an extra counter here. And now, Nicole, unable to use that Honest Rutstein to get value because the No More Lies exiled Inti. Be a very different game if that were just a mana leak. Are you just going to see Honest Rutstein run out anyway, or perhaps this is a cycling of one of those 3 color lands? See what she wants to do here. To come back to something you mentioned before, Cedric, I do wonder if there are maybe some nerves. Nicole does seem pretty ice cold, to be honest.
I mean, pretty calm, cool, and collected, in my opinion.
But this is definitely it's definitely a factor, and you know the more experienced, the older the player is in terms of their Magic career, the less these sorts of matches are gonna, because they've been there before, right? They've got the experience.
And hypothetically,
in your first ever Pro Tour, I wonder how much the nerves might be getting to you. But Nicole seems to be in a good spot anyway. Lucas certainly holding it together, even a game down. He seems completely unfazed, just playing his best Magic.
Yeah, I would say that Nicole, as far as maybe the emotions or the body language is concerned, totally fine. The problem is that Nicole's hand stinks.
Ooh, and a rest in
that's
peace.
the issue.
Okay, that's going to make things a little more difficult here for the 4-color Legends deck because it is wanting to play and recur a bunch of lands out of the bin. So that's not going to be an option for as long as that enchantment sticks around. And Lucas's hand looks pretty good. Tishana's Tidebinder go for the throat. We've seen just how potent Tishana's Tidebinder can be in this matchup. Aclazotz isn't a bad one.
It rarely is.
5 and a 4/4 lifelink, and an Inti as well. All right. So with that 7th land, you can just run both of these out and see what happens. Problem is one of these will just die to a go for the throat. I was just going to pass maybe, keep the Beseiju up.
Potentially. Which,
Go after that rest in peace.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, can see that.
Yep. Backup rest in peace there.
Oh dear. Okay, go for the throat on the Aclazotz. And yep, Karl having to...
I think is that, yeah, it's gone for good because of the rest in peace. I have a feeling.
Yeah, I don't think it actually, we can have a look at this card. But because it says when Aclazotz dies, which means that it has to go to the graveyard first. So Beseiju on the rest in peace will mean that the Aclazotz will die.
Yes, it will.
No, both will be exiled.
This exile too?
Yes.
So the rest in peace exiled to its own ability.
Yep. And Beseiju is gone too.
Beseiju also exiled. And now, once the go for the throat resolves, Aclazotz will flip into its temple. And Aclazotz dies. Return it to the battlefield tapped and transformed.
Oh, not this time.
Under its owner's control.
We have a little Tidebinder action.
Oh, all right. So we're not going to be seeing the Temple of the Dead this time around. Yeah, Tidebinder Mage is a real nasty one, hey?
Yeah, that card's been fantastic ever since it's been printed across multiple formats.
Yeah.
It's a pretty healthy attack there from Lucas as well. So the tide is certainly turning in this game in Lucas's favor.
Can you use the checklist for Aclazotz, please?
Use the checklist?
Yes. No.
I think it's fine.
Sorry.
No, we're sorry.
All right, Honest Rutstein's going to be able to buy back this Aclazotz. And it can be cast as well, because the Honest Rutstein can be tapped for mana, Cedric.
And because it does make things a little bit cheaper as well. So this is actually a pretty nice turn.
Oh, wow. Because the Inti is essentially mana neutral because it only costs 1 thanks to the Honest Rutstein. What a turn for Nicole. She's back in it here. But Lucas in a terrific position himself here.
Nicole's actually played this game incredibly well as far as patience is concerned. The use of the Beseiju and leaving the mana up when there was the ability to play an additional spell that turn was very, very nice. The holding of the cycling land because the potential for a Fairy Mastermind was very, very nice as well. I've really, really, really liked the way that Nicole has played this game thus far, even though her draws have not been the best. I mean, she's done a really nice job of at least giving herself a chance to get into the game, and now that Aklazotz is back on the battlefield, even though the life totals are 20-9 in favor of Lucas, I think things might be swinging Nicole's way, especially if she's able to untap because of the Plaza of Heroes that's on the battlefield, which will be able to protect the legendary threats.
True, yeah. That Plaza of Heroes will void any removal that Lucas tries to play. We're going to see a second Rest in Peace, but this one is not as efficacious as the first one was because Nicole's board is a lot more developed here, and she gets to untap that Plaza of Heroes is back online here. Honest Rutstein in hand is a bit of a blank ski at this stage. What she found off the top here, let's have a look. Takanuma. Okay, well, speaking of blank skis.
Yeah, not particularly exciting.
Not with a Rest in Peace out, no. Important too that Beseiju was exiled to the Rest in Peace that it helped destroy, because it means that any future Slogurks wouldn't have been able to bring it back. This is obviously assuming there wasn't a second Rest in Peace, which there was. Discards the Honest Rutstein and finds a Titania off the top, which can be cast. Inti coming in as a 3/3. We're going to see a double block here. Titania. Casts for just 2 mana because of the Honest Rutstein.
Yeah. Okay, so it's Fairy Mastermind time. I think it's going to net Lucas, of course, 2 cards to Nicole's 1.
Let's see what they both find here. Okay, well, just a Blackcleave Cliffs for Nicole. Fairy Mastermind and a black card. I didn't get a good look at it.
It's the longest of goodbyes.
Oh, the long goodbye there. All right. Now, Fairy Mastermind in multiples can start to get very silly.
Absolutely can. And I think will this game.
If you can cast and then activate it, which I believe Lucas has enough mana to do. Yes, indeed. So that ends up drawing you a lot more cards than your opponent gets. Because at the moment it breaks the symmetry partially. They get 1, you get 2. But if you get 3 to their 1,
yes,
then it starts getting real nasty.
And as the way this game is currently playing, it feels as though Nicole may not have particularly good attacks with Rafine, the Fairy Mastermind on the battlefield, the unknown Fairy Mastermind in hand that we, of course, all know about, and then those Reckless Anchorages as well. So I think Nicole is best served to just continue to hang back, but that's not really a winning proposition either, because now Fairy Masterminds are on the battlefield and Lucas is drawing more cards than Nicole is. So this is kind of a definition of a rock and a hard place.
Bit of a pinch here for Nicole, because if she doesn't attack, then those Fairy Masterminds are going to not even slowly, quite quickly take over the game.
Yes.
And with a lack of particularly effective attacks here. All right, so both players draw, and now there's going to be 2 Fairy Mastermind triggers, so Luke's going to draw 3 in total. Oh, but a Rona off the top here for Nicole.
Yeah, Rona's okay. It's just a little slow to kind of get started. You know, that's the biggest issue with that. Of course, it's very good with the Relic, and we know about some of the broken things that can happen there. But, again, the card drawing engine is much more favorable here for Lucas, and it's also a lot more immediate.
Preacher of the Schism. Rafine. Part 2 here for Lucas, in addition to a couple of lands. Caves of Koilos. Underground River.
And don't forget, Rona doesn't play great in the face of Fairy Mastermind either.
That's actually very true. Yeah. Yeah, this means that every Fairy Mastermind, every Rona activation will result in Lucas drawing a couple of extra cards.
Just depending on when it's done, of course, but it is not ideal.
Well, we're going to run out the Rona anyway. Yep. Could just flip it into a 5/5 straight away.
Yeah, and I think that might be an option here. That's worth exploring.
Straight into the Tolarian Obliterator, perhaps. 6 mana.
Now, of course, when you explore that option of transforming Rona right away, if you want to do the 5 mana and pay 2 life, or the 6 mana, regardless how you do it, that means that Plaza of Heroes is going to be down-ish, and I say down-ish because there are relics on the battlefield. So you'll still be able to activate it depending on how the mana is tapped, but all this conversation is for naught, it appears.
Cards?
So, long goodbye. But the relic, oh, sorry, the plaza still protects it from that, right?
It's an option.
Yeah.
It's an option. It's an option that Nicole has to decide if she wants to explore.
Plaza of Heroes says, exile Plaza of Heroes. Target legendary creature gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So there is the option to save the Rona from this long goodbye here. Just having to think about it. No, just going to let it happen. Okay. So that's the long goodbye out of Lucas's hand. And now we're going to see Fairy Mastermind activated again. Three cards off the top for Lucas. This is what we said was going to happen, said.
Yeah, just it's 3 cards to 1 every single time. And while you don't love having your opponent draw a card, if you're drawing 3 to their 1, yeah we're going to do that every time until we can't.
It's pretty fine. It's pretty fine, yes. Oh, and Tishana's Tidebinder is joined by a Go for the Throat, so the interaction is going to begin again. Aklazot's this time will be exiled unless this is what prompts the Plaza of Heroes activation. And with Nicole not having a lot else going on in her hand, I think this is where we're going to see the trigger pulled. But Tishana's Tidebinder is here to counter the ability from the Plaza of Heroes. A little stifle here from the 3-2. And I think that's going to put Aklazot's to bed and maybe even this game.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of the 1-2 punch is just if I can finally get this Aklazot's off the battlefield for good, if that's what Lucas is thinking.
Go for the throat resolves. I'm going to Odawara the rest of these.
Okay, so you can see here, Nicole is intent upon keeping the Aklazot's out of the exile zone. So the Aklazot's becomes a Temple of the Dead, which I don't want to burst anyone's bubble here,
but you're gonna.
I do not think that Temple is going to flip anytime soon. Just to remind people, Temple of the Dead says 3 and a black, tap, transform Temple of the Dead. Great, fantastic, love to do that. Activate only if a player has 1 or fewer cards in hand.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough.
That's gonna be tough. That's gonna be a tough one. That's a tall order for someone who's drawing 4 cards every turn. So, Aklazot's transforms into the Temple of the Dead, but now Rafine is cleared for landing without any flying blockers.
Yeah, it looks like Rafine and Preacher are attacking. Now, don't forget that Tatiana and those long arms of the law does mean that there is a reach blocker out here. And that's why I think we're seeing Fairy Masterminds, plural, hang back on defense at the moment. But Preacher has Death Touch, so doesn't mind if any blocking does take place, as I don't think Preacher minds trading with anything here. And now there's a pretty simplistic block there.
Yep. So, take 2, go to 7. As Lucas connives, discards a couple of lands. A couple more mana, we're going to see Adenic
With it on the stack.
and
Channel trigger.
Takanuma in response. That was the other upside of bouncing the Odawara. It kind of unlocked that Takanuma.
Trigger.
11.
Gain some more life, thanks to the Takanuma that was milled over. And now the Rest in Peace comes down to make the whole thing largely academic. So Lucas continuing to fire on all cylinders here, pulling further ahead. The top of Nicole's library has to be very kind to her here. I think that was just a relic. I didn't get a good look at it. It was a Tiny Bones. Yeah, here is the Pickpocket. Darkslick Shores.
Well, can transform. So, easier than it appeared. Yeah, it being tapped is a really big deal.
I was 100% certain. Just a second ago, that card said opponent. I was so sure it said opponent. Anybody. We're back in business, baby. Yeah, I was thinking with Lucas drawing 4 cards a turn, it wasn't happening. But hey, it's a little less restrictive than I realized. So that's good news.
Now, if it came back untapped, it'd be outrageously good. Now, it coming back tapped is a bit of a hindrance at this moment here for Nicole. Better than nothing, of course, transforming the big bat and getting it back on the battlefield. yes, but still a lot of trouble here Tipple is in.
Right, Lucas counting them up. Double Raffine blot out. 2 lands in hand for him.
What an interesting Lucas's hand is insofar as there's clearly discard fodder here. It's just how much does Lucas feel as though he can attack with on this turn, because the Raffine connives, given the multiple copies of Raffine in hand, means that there's plenty of ammo to discard to make something a little bit larger. And yeah, I'm not too surprised to see a Reckless Anchorage get fired up here. It's just what's going to attack now, because it could be a lot of flyers. It could be Denick as well. Looks like we're questions about to be answered here.
I think we might be just sending with everything here. Yeah. Yeah, putting the pressure on. This is sort of sending some of the lambs to the slaughter in the face of the Titania, and indeed the Death Touch Tiny Bones.
Sure.
But this is also a massive connive here.
And that first draw was because of the Preacher. This one is for all the conniving.
Yes, drawing 6 because of connive. So draw 6, discard 6, you know,
Yeah, not bad.
as you do. And I'm not sure exactly which creature is conniving. I think it might be one of the fairy masterminds.
Yeah, we're going to find out in a minute.
Or
here,
was
that's
it
for
the,
sure.
maybe it was the Reckless Anchorage, actually.
There you go.
So discards 6 cards.
Yeah.
Okay, no, it was the fairy mastermind. It's going to pick up 3 counters. And still before blocks,
That's good.
we're going to see
Yeah, you
a...
see because 6 cards were drawn?
Yeah.
So one of them was probably
One
good.
of them was going to be a removal spell.
Yeah.
And in response, a swift concession there from Nicole. And so now we go to game number 3. This is a win and in for the top 8 here at Pro Tour Thunder Junction. Will it be Lucas Duchow? Will it be Nicole Tipple? We are going to find out. This game of Magic will determine who is going to be coming back tomorrow. Triple Deep Cavern Bat here for Lucas.
Human?
Whereas Nicole opens with one of the best cards in her deck.
I have a fear.
Rona.
I have a fear that the opening hand graphic is a lie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Nicole doesn't have a lot of cards in hand. See? See? Do you see?
Ooh, maybe it wasn't an opening
Yeah.
on 7. Yeah.
That's a sad fate.
I thought that maybe it was still being updated, but oh boy, that's going to be a tough one for Nicole to come back from here.
Yeah, that's brutal because
That looks like a mulligan.
Yeah.
5?
yeah, and the bats are really good in an instance like this.
Yeah. Take the cut down. Another bat can come coming down and take the Vorinclex or the Honest Rutstein. Oh boy. All right. Well.
Rona's going to be working overtime.
Yep. Yep. Rona is really the only way that Nicole's going to get back into this with triple bat.
Activate.
Right, draw a card. Discard a card. Finds a Titania. Discards Vorinclex.
Green, black.
Okay.
Oh,
Cast Honest Rutstein.
that's a tough way to do it.
Get back the Vorinclex.
Go.
All right.
You know, as good as this text mana is, and the mana is pretty darn good,
Yeah.
you play a lot of those legendary lands with good reason, since the channeling is going to happen on the cheap a high percentage of the time. This is the downside. Takanumas, plural, especially when you're on a mulligan or 2. You don't have a lot of agency over what the lands look like, and yeah, again, that's the downside, and it's getting worse.
Another Deep Cavern Bat here can go after the Titania or the Vorinclex. And you'd have to think you'd take the Titania here, just in case a green source is forthcoming off the top. And then Nicole very quickly running out of answers. Go for the throat here in Lucas's hand too.
Yeah, Lucas's next turn looks really, really good with an untapped land. Another bat, if he so chooses, and a go for the throat at the ready. Again, Rona's trying to be working overtime, but Rona likes to work overtime when Rona has access to a lot of resources, which, yeah, we're starting to get a little something cooking here.
Yeah, Inti's not too bad here. Inti's not too bad. Can attack with the Honest Rutstein. Maybe discard the Vorinclex.
18?
No? Okay. Gonna hold on to it.
In my end step, I'm going to loot.
Yep.
In-step loot here.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll mean that the card that is exiled from the Inti is playable until Nicole's next turn here. So it seemed like a weird bit of timing, but it does mean the Inti card sticks around for a little longer.
Say it again.
Slowgurk.
For her first Pro Tour, she ain't bad.
No.
She ain't bad at all.
Certainly not.
Not 11-4 on accident, I'll tell you
No.
that much.
Nicole very clearly putting the reps. Knows the deck inside and out. And look, whether she somehow manages to get back into this game or goes down swinging. I'm hoping to see a lot more of Nicole Tipple in future Pro Tours.
At the very least, we're seeing Nicole in Amsterdam. And I think we're going to see Nicole a lot more than that.
Yeah, I would hope so. All right, deep cavern bat now for Lucas, who is drawing ever closer to a berth in the top 8. That's a pretty brutal bat once again, a go for the throat. But a removal spell here unlocks these bats, one after the other.
Sure.
Very mastermind in response is a nasty.
Do you have to go through all the stuff before I unlock? You discard the card first.
And then Lucas will draw a card thanks to the Rona trigger here. But again, Nicole does have to discard, as he pointed out.
Yeah, you can't half resolve Rona. Rona is draw and discard, and then the Fairy Mastermind trigger will resolve to draw on their card, assuming that's the second card, which it is.
Another Slowgurk, and Nicole, now you can see a little bit of frustration creeping in, which is completely understandable. You just can't find a land. She's been digging and digging, cannot find a third land here. This is not the way that you want your Pro Tour campaign to end. Plaza of Heroes is not going to be able to cast those Slowgurks with the Cavern of Souls naming, I assume, Human.
Human.
Yeah. This is really rough stuff here. You got to feel for her. But Lucas will be very excited as he edges towards his top 8 seat here, potentially, as the bats come in. His hand, a bunch of lands and 2 copies of Go for the Throat. One's going to get rid of the Rona. Judicious use of that removal spell, of course, getting rid of one of the main ways that Nicole's staying in this game. What has she found? 1 card in hand. Looks like we're going to get in here. And Inti discards another Slowgurk. Another Slowgurk. Oh my goodness, the 4th Slowgurk here. Nicole cannot catch a break. Look at her face.
If that doesn't
Taking it in good humor there, you can see.
If that doesn't speak volumes about this game.
Go ahead.
Oh my goodness. Rough as guts here for poor old Nicole Tipple. Flipping 4 Slowgurks at the most inopportune moments.
7.
720.
As Nicole gets, as Lucas gets in here, knocks Nicole down to 7. Cut down, takes out Inti off the top. Tiny Bones the pickpocket the draw.
Tiny Bones.
Which she plays with a very determined and an emphatic
why not?
air.
Go.
Nicole still finding a way to enjoy herself here. An incredible performance she's put together, but at the moment, Lucas firmly in the driver's seat. Nicole, a rough mulligan.
If you kill my Tiny Bones, we'll never be friends again.
Oh dear. Oh no.
Well, now we're playing the sub game.
Yeah, the beginnings of this
There we
beautiful
go.
friendship seem to be very, very jeopardized. But look, full credit to Lucas in this situation, taking advantage of the fact that
15.
Nicole's opener and the opening turns of her game
Yeah, you got
have
enough
not been
cards?
what she wanted them to. He's made the most of that, playing the disruptive elements in his deck, deep cavern bats,
Show
and
me
now
2
Rafines
non-lands.
as well. Draw 4, discard 4. And that is going to do it here. And Lucas Duchow is our next top 8 competitor here. Congratulations to him. A heartbreaking loss for his opponent there on a mulligan, not finding the cards she needed. But well done, Lucas Duchow, in the top 8 here at Pro Tour Thunder Junction, Cedric.
There are positives and negatives to all Magic matches. On one side of things, we see a player who is very happy making such a deep run at this tournament in Nicole. On the other, of course, we have someone who's made the top 8 of a Pro Tour, and Lucas, who's been playing for a very long time, Midwestern player who I used to play against in PTQs in my college days way back when. We're a couple of old guys who are still doing this thing a little bit here. The negative is that we didn't get to see a great Game 3, and that's a bummer for Nicole, who was outstanding all weekend.
Yeah.
I absolutely enjoyed watching her play all weekend with the 4-color Legends decks because is that deck super cool, super fun? Yes, but we're watching a star being born.
Yeah.
I have a very strong feeling from just watching her play just a couple of matches here this weekend. We know we're going to see her in Amsterdam. And like I said earlier, I think we're going to see quite a bit more of her because she's got a very sound understanding of what's going on at this level of Magic. It's very clear to see just watching a couple of matches.
Someone who has invested themselves in competitive constructed Magic
Yeah.
In such a short amount of time to be playing at this level, immensely impressive. And I know I'm not alone in saying I hope we see a lot more of Nicole in the future.
Absolute blast.
Sadly, however, we won't be seeing her on Sunday. We will be seeing her opponent, Lucas Duchow. Once again, congratulations to him. We'd be very happy with this result, but we've got more top 8 slots to secure, my friends. We're going to take a quick break, get set up with our next win and in as part of closing out today's coverage. So stay with us after this. Javier Dominguez versus Arne Huschenbeth. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to coverage of Pro Tour Thunder Junction, wherever you're joining us from around the world. It's our great pleasure to have you here as we get closer and closer, rounding out the 8 slots in our Sunday top 8 here. My name's Riley Knight. I'm joined by Cedric Phillips, and we're gonna jump into game number 3, the deciding game of a match that's being played between Javier Dominguez and Arne Huschenbeth. Both players.
Nobodies.
Well, all right. Cedric coming in
way.
hot.
Teammates, and they're both excellent.
So these two players here, no strangers to success. Javier Dominguez, of course, a former world champion. He's done very, very well for himself over the years. Arne Huschenbeth, a little bit younger. Fellow from Berlin in Germany, in the German capital. 2 top finishes to his name.
Starting game 3.
And we'll see how things go in the deciding game. Game 3, these two players having locked it up in the Esper mirror, 1-1 so far, Cedric.
They have been teammates before. I imagine they'll probably be teammates again, but they are good friends. That much is to be sure, and they are both absolutely excellent at this game. Esper, as we know, Riley, most played deck here this weekend, and both of them have actually said out loud, independent of one another, when Alias had the chance to talk to him. Yeah, these Esper mirrors, they're a lot. They're a lot in the old brain.
Yeah.
You know, to really kind of keep track and keep up with everything, all the damage, all the counters, all the counter spells, all the everything. So as we're deep here into day number 2 and deep into this tournament, Let's see if one of these players maybe is a little mentally exhausted with so much clearly on the line.
A knight flashed in here with the Virtue of Loyalty, and we're going to see a different 2-drop flashed in with Fairy Mastermind from Arne. As he starts his 3rd turn. Javier keeping 3 mana up. What could it be? Could be anything.
Well, this deck, it can be anything.
Yeah, it really can.
There's
Right?
a lot of options.
That's Fairy Mastermind now. Are we going to offer the trade here?
Yeah. Shall I?
All right.
All right, we're going to block. And then a wedding announcement.
Okay, turn. Let's off right here.
To round out the turn.
Affine.
3 mana, Rafine. Could have played that last turn, but chose to wait. And we'll see now.
16.
Caves of Koilos discarded. This is the knight attacking, of course. It was the one that was conniving there.
Yeah, this is really interesting because both 3-drops are great, right? Rafine's great, Wedding Announcement's great. They can really change the tenor of a game, but they do it in a very different way. Wedding Announcement is card advantage that's very, very slow, and then creatures get larger, and then you're winning the power and toughness battle. Rafine can close out a game really quickly and increase the quality of your draw, but it's not alive anymore.
So it's probably not going to have a huge impact on the game
No, I
from
don't
this
think
point,
so.
from its standpoint in the graveyard there. Wedding Announcement churns out another human. And Javier now has to get himself back into this. The little shake of the head here for the Spaniard. And 5 mana. We've seen how important this card has been from the Esper decks. Virtue of Loyalty for just 5 mana now. Javier's team will grow and grow, but he doesn't have much of a team on the board.
Not yet, but this is a way to go over the top of Wedding Announcement. Is if you have a Virtue going, then your goal is to put a lot of creatures in the battlefield and just kind of let Virtue do what Virtue does. And you and I have had the opportunity to watch Virtue do a lot over the course of this tournament, and it's starting to do it again, or at least try. Go for the throat will maybe allow Arne to rush past this before it starts to dominate the game. And now it's starting to get ugly here for Javier.
Yes.
Yeah, particularly with this Rafine that's just been played. Conniving. So the German pulling ahead here a little bit, you'd say. Although Javier does have in his hand a Wedding Announcement of his own, which is a good way to generate those tokens for the Virtue, but it might be a little late.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? Because now Wedding Announcement is transforming, so the creatures are already bigger. And so, look, if we play on an infinite timeline, Virtue's going to overpower exactly what Arne is doing, but I don't know if Javier, as you mentioned, is going to have enough time. And don't forget, while all this is happening, Rafine is increasing the card quality that is in Huschenbeth's hand.
Yep, filtering the deck here for Arne, getting him those premium.
Where are life totals? 15, 16.
Sorry, yeah.
All right.
2 in hand?
Yep.
So that human, a 2/2, as indeed are Arne's. And for 2 mana.
Yeah, this is getting really tough for Javier.
It is Ardenvale Fealty here to put a 3/3 knight into play.
I got it.
And because the 2/2 is problematic, yes, because it's a battle of creatures as far as who has more, but also who's our bigger.
Good.
And well, a Virtue on the other side could be way too much to overcome.
So that's a blot out
Yes,
that
it
was
is.
just played, which does mean that the Rafine should be exiled.
It may come up.
It may come up, but Arne obviously missed that. Put it in his graveyard instead. All right, the attack of these humans. Don't forget, everything's got +1/+1 on Arne's side of things.
11.
So this is a big attack, and it's going to knock Javier down to 11. And now we have the Virtue of Loyalty on the side of Arne, and you'd think he's getting closer and closer to a top 8 finish here.
The God.
No.
The flip wedding,
not.
the Virtue of Loyalty.
Yes.
Very thematic.
So now,
Very thematic. Look at those 2 rings there.
so how does Javier get out of this? So the first thing I point to is, okay, who has more creatures, right? That's step one,
Yeah.
right? Because right now Javier is a little bit behind on the power toughness battle, so who has more creatures, and how can Javier contain the creatures? Well, Javier has a Reckless Anchorage, which is not great in this particular instance right now, but Javier has a copy of Otawara, which actually bounces a creature, which is okay,
Animate this.
right? So Javier's gonna animate the Reckless Anchorage, trigger the Wedding Announcement, make a token, trigger the Virtue, which untaps the Anchorage, and now there's a token there. So let's count all these creatures. Restless Anchorage is just getting a little bit bigger too,
Yeah.
along with the rest of the bunch.
Obviously untapped because it was a creature by the virtue there.
But the Odawara could gum up the works a little bit
Oh,
here.
boy.
You know, that does it too.
Oh boy. There's another Rafine here for Arne. And an attack. And this is the problem with what Rafine does immediately. The turn that it comes down immediately improves your hand, right? Draw 3, discard 3. Odawara on the Knight. Which is pretty good. This is just a removal spell at this point, not a bounce spell. Tokens can't be bounced to hand.
Thinking it will go at 6 if I don't block, which is not great, but also cards 2.
So Javier's deciding if he's going to block, and if he is, how is he going to?
This one, this is 3. Yeah. I think.
So Javier here can trade with his human.
We're gonna trade next turn.
Just
I'm
again,
gonna trade.
moving forward, knocking that little +1/+1 counter off.
Yeah.
He's owning the battlefield here,
Yeah.
Javier is. Now we're going to see a trade here.
Yeah.
Oh, potentially. Ooh.
So Javier's token right now is a 1, 2, 3, 3, and then Arne's token is also a 1, a 2, and then 3, 3.
Yeah.
Arne's is a 3, 3 because it's a 1, 1 with the +1/+1 counter, and then the +1/+1 from Transform Wedding Announcement.
Yep.
So 3, 3s run into each other. The other one gets through Javier's creature that's not blocking. It's a 2/2, and that's extremely dead. So this is really bad for Javier.
So the human dies to Iganjo here.
Yep.
It's been channeled by Arne. Creatures untap and get a counter, and this is going from bad to worse here for Javier. From bad to worse here for the former world champion.
If Javier can manage Rafine, I don't hate his position.
One card, huh?
Anchorage is going to get involved. Attacks as a 3/4 here.
So this is a 3,
3, 6.
and this is a
3/6.
X4, so it doesn't die if I attack, right?
And Javier is confirming with Arne just power and toughness on the Rafine. 3/6 versus
3/4.
3/4. Yeah. So this is basically
It's a 3 power, right?
this is a
3, 6. Yeah.
free quote unquote map.
Yeah.
Sorry, attack.
So a map token generated by the Restless Anchorage. It will untap at the end of turn
Yeah.
if the Virtue of Loyalty is still there, of course. And pick up another counter. So you want to activate it in your turn.
It's kind of fun. Like, first time we got to watch Virtue in action.
13.
13, 8.
Okay, and Arne actually takes it, doesn't block. Wondering if there's maybe some mind games that Javier's playing there, but I don't know. It was either it was the sickest of all bluffs, or it was just pretty clear he wanted the map token. All right, so Wedding Festivity flip now for Javier.
Gets to
He's going to pick up a bunch of counters on all of his creatures as well.
And don't forget the untapping
And
too.
the untap of the Restless Anchorage means it can be activated again to block.
It can
That is
indeed.
correct.
So this is handy here that both these players have got the flip Wedding Festivity. You can just add a flat +1/+1 to the base stats of all these creatures, then figure out the counter situation. But Arne is a little bit ahead when it comes to the stats of his creatures. He's going to activate his own Restless Anchorage. Man, these decks are kind of playing out very similarly.
That's strange.
Really, really strange. But again, it's the Rafine that is making a huge difference here for the German, as he's going to be able to connive 4.
Okay.
So I draw 4.
Yes.
It's the map from the Anchorage. Did you catch which creature was conniving there, Seth?
I missed it. We'll find out in just a moment.
I think it was
But
made abundantly clear.
I'm curious. I'm very focused on what Arne is drawing and potentially discarding here.
All right, let's have a look.
Because I know there was at least a Wandering Emperor in there, but
Correct.
hear them chat.
Let's go 2.
Sounds like default to me.
All right, this might be enough here. We've got a block. It's not enough for Javier to stay in it. And so Arne Huschenbeth locks up another top finish here. He's done very, very well to take out a true champion in Javier Dominguez. And so we'll be seeing this young bloke back here tomorrow and as part of our Pro Tour Top 8. Commiserations, of course, to Javier Dominguez, who fought bravely but ultimately fell in what was a very complex Esper mirror, as they usually are, said.
As they usually are, indeed. So, I love the tale of two players. On one side of things, Javier, who is taking that loss in stride. This is back-to-back Pro Tours outside looking in. You know, we think of the last Pro Tour in Chicago. He was, I believe, in 9th place and just very, very difficult. And then, of course, on the other side of things, Luz is playing here for top 8 to a good buddy of his in Arne Huschenbeth. And on the flip side of things, you can see exactly what this means for Arne,
Look at
who has said before that, you know, he wanted to get back to this level to prove that he can still play at this level. I had the pleasure of covering the Arena Champs last month, where he had a dominant performance, but he came up a little bit short in the top 8. And he said, you know, it felt good to get there. You know, the money that he earned from that tournament was awesome, but he wants to win trophies. That's what he wants to do. He wants to make the Sunday stage, and he wants to win trophies, and he's one step closer to doing that, and obviously it means a ton to him.
You can see that that emotion there for Huschenbeth, so it'll be good to see him getting stuck in tomorrow. But we've got another winner in to bring you, my friends. We've got one more slot in the top 8 to be locked up. We're going to jump in. Karl Sarap and Yuta Takahashi are in Game 2 right now, I believe. So we're going to be able to get stuck in and see who's going to get across the line. Yuta Takahashi, of course, we've seen him on the battlefield.
A lot.
Even when he's not been playing, Cedric. This is the guy who appears on the card Fairy Mastermind after his incredible victory in a World Championship a couple of years ago. Facing off against Karl Sarap here on Esper Midrange. So I'm going to just be very clear.
Please do.
That if you hear any bias creeping in to my call of this game, it's because Yuta Takahashi is playing what is undoubtedly, in my mind, the best deck in the format in Azorius Control. And I'm in a position here to rub it into Cedric, who has said that this deck belongs in the garbage can. Doesn't look like it right now, my friend.
I'm gonna walk that back just a little bit here for you before we turn our attention to the game. I may dislike Azorius Control. I make no bones about that. But I really like Yuta Takahashi.
So it gets a pass?
So
all right. Well, he's up a game. That's the good news here for Azorius Control enjoyers. And this means he's just one game away. But Karl Sarap can dig in here.
Okay, my turn.
And Esper Midrange is always a difficult deck to beat. So if Karl can rattle off 2 wins on the trot here, he could be the one locking up the top 8 slot. But it's a tall order against someone like Yuta Takahashi, an incredible player, immensely skilled, proven time and time again, and here in a decent spot with an active Wandering Emperor to, well, not a lot on Karl's side.
Yeah, I mean, look, Esper Midrange is the deck to beat for a reason. It's the most played deck for a reason. It is a very, very good deck, and we've just seen 2 make it into the elimination round. So it's not like we're not going to see it tomorrow, but this is a deck that can be beat, and I have to imagine Takahashi has beaten it a time or 2 over the course of these 2 days. Now, the big question is, can he get it now when it matters the most? Currently up a game on Karl, and looks to be in decent position. Life total is starting to stabilize a little bit at 13 to Karl's 28. So Yuta has a lot of work to do as far as killing Karl, but can he actually get a firm grasp on the game? That's the more important part right now.
Yuta Takahashi has played Esper Midrange exactly once in this tournament so far.
That's a little surprising.
So if it's a bad matchup, he's dodged it.
Yeah.
But he did manage to win in round 12 against Gabriel Nicholas. So he's in form. He's in form, undefeated against Esper Midrange this weekend from a, obviously, statistically significant sample size.
This is a card that Azorius Control does not like to play against very much.
No. Duress, you can see Negate also in the bin from Karl, so he's obviously sideboarded very effectively against this deck, and I think we're going to see a 3 steps ahead in response to this Duress, including the Consider mode. Draw a card, or draw 2 cards, then discard a card. It seems weird to discard or to counter Duress because it's still taking the card out of your hand, but Cedric, it's taking the card out of your hand on your terms.
That's true. That's true.
It also defends and protects other better cards that are in your hand, for example, Memory Deluge. So I like this, particularly 3 steps ahead with the extra modes. Middle mode doesn't come up too much. You can sometimes copy a clue token or a samurai, but spending 5 mana to counter a spell and then replace the card that you just spent, fantastic. Real Cryptic Command type stuff, you know.
I know Cryptic Command. That ain't Cryptic Command.
Mate, come on. In there, we'll take what we can get, all right?
I've lost to Cryptic Command quite a bit.
Yeah?
That ain't no Cryptic Command.
You haven't lost the 3 steps ahead quite as much? Alrighty, we're going to see the knight go after the Wandering Emperor and a wedding announcement here. So Karl getting himself back into this game. This is better stuff from him for sure. Able to put some pressure on, bit of disruption as well. And from Takahashi now we'll see the Memory Deluge. Let's see what Yuta can find off the top. 4 cards, he gets to pick 2 of them.
Yeah, if Yuta's casting this right now, it can be a sign of 2 different things. One, he feels like he's in a lot of trouble and just needs to actually cast this right now to know exactly what he's going to be working with. Or 2, he is fearful of a counterspell and wants to make sure that this Memory Deluge is resolved. Now, it could be both of those things, but it's certainly one or the other.
Now, he did discard the Seachrome Coast before, which leads me to believe that he does have more lands in his hand, because otherwise I don't think he'd discard the land. You do want to continue to hit land drops when you're playing control decks. And you can see, yeah, Restless Anchorage there. Destroy Evil is a card that I really, really like in this format. Gabriel Nassif was actually playing it in the main deck of his Azorius control list. Destroy target enchantment, very strong against a huge proportion of the field.
There's a lot of enchantments in this format.
There are indeed, so I don't mind main decking the card. Yuta, on the other hand, playing it from the sideboard, but he can see it's doing work.
Yeah.
So in they come. Connive first from the freshly cast Rafine here for Karl. This game seems pretty evenly balanced at this point.
We're going a little bit back and forth between the 2 players right now. Yuta's, again, it's not this particular game. Karl's life total effectively doesn't matter. You know, Karl's at 27. That's super cool. That's a long way for Yuta to go. It's about, can Yuta actually get a stranglehold on this game from a control perspective?
Yeah.
Because if he's able to, then he can kind of win at his leisure with Anchorage attacks, Wandering Emperor, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter, but it's actually getting a firm grasp on the game, which has been difficult thus far since we've joined. And Takahashi is starting to, work through his deck a little bit as far as cards are concerned and answering things like Destroy Evil, taking care of Wedding Announcement, but this Esper mid-range deck is somewhat relentless, and even though Destroy Evil is going to take care of that, there's still a lot of work to do, and Temporary Lockdown is going to get some of it done.
Well, this is the work that needs to get done. Now, I'm gonna point something out for the viewers here. This is something to take note of, because these Azorius control decks often play up to 4 Field of Ruin effects, right? Whether that's Field of Ruin, whether that's Demolition Field. Invariably, Esper mid-range plays 1 planes. So once you snipe a card with the Demolition Field, with the Field of Ruin, they go and fetch the planes. After that, it's essentially wasted.
Strip Mine or whatever. Strip Mine, Wasteland, whatever.
It's not going to come up, I don't think, in this match, because Karl has plenty of lands.
Yeah.
But that can be the difference between a win and a loss, strangling your opponent's mana like that.
For sure, because you can color screw them too.
Exactly, right? And obviously, Esper's mana is really good, but it's something to take note of. And a reason as well, I would advise players, just chuck an extra basic in there, particularly for Azorius control. Actually, no, don't do that. Take all your basics out.
There you go.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
That's better.
Don't worry about it.
That'll increase your win percentage.
No, mate,
That's what you got to do.
I need every extra point I can get. Let me tell you that.
Didn't say you didn't.
No. Okie dokes. 3 steps ahead here for Yuta. Keeping the board nice and clear.
Okay, there's a little slow win
There's a
condition.
Mirex.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's what I like about this deck. It's able to sneak its win conditions in slots that just aren't taken up, they're not dedicated to win conditions, right? Mirex, Restless Anchorage, just hiding away in the lands as win conditions. The Wandering Emperor you want as an interactive piece, right? That can then slowly but steadily win you the game. All we need now is a Sphinx's Revelation. Oh, baby.
Yeah, could you imagine?
Oh, I
I'm
could.
sure- I'm
Yes,
sure
I
you
do
could.
regularly.
Yeah. So the question I have here, because we don't have a good look at Karl's hand, is he out of gash yet? Now, we've seen and we've joked a lot about Virtue and how good it's been in those mid-range mirrors when we watched Esper against 4-color Legends, 5-color Legends, just creature-based things. Well, Virtue is not as impactful in this matchup.
Yeah, because Yuta will be able to keep the board clear much more effectively.
Yuta should be able to manage most of the creatures, and then it won't be that big of a concern.
Yeah.
So Virtue being cast and resolving here is not that big of a deal. Now, again, the question is, can Yuta actually just manage all the creatures? And again, this is a huge step in the right direction. This is no Sphinx's Revelation, excuse me, but it's not bad in Memory Deluge being flashback.
And one of the things that we've seen about Virtue of Loyalty is that it's great at breaking deadlocks, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you've got a bunch of creatures, but your opponent has a bunch of creatures in the Virtue, you're probably going to lose. The thing is here, a lot of the time, we're seeing the Demolition Field activated here. A lot of the time, when you're a control deck, you can actually just ignore the Virtue and kill the creatures.
That's all you need to do.
Because the Virtue does a stone cold nothing when there are no creatures on the battlefield.
Now, while these two wonderful players are resolving a demolition field, you, Riley, who I enjoy quite a bit. I want to be clear about that before I say this.
No, that's good. That's really setting me up. I'm imagining the next thing you're going to say is going to make me feel even better.
You've had a lot of thoughts about players' lands this weekend. Been very opinionated.
Yeah.
Yuta has the best lands.
Okay.
This is non-negotiable.
All right.
Signed Guru Basics?
Yeah.
Whoo, doggy.
Yeah, I'm not getting into that one.
Those are very pretty. That's what I'll say. That's what I'll say.
Field of Ruin. And now, this is what I was pointing out before. This is just a strip mine, right? There's no extra basics for Karl to go and search up.
This is finally happening.
It's actually happening.
So I wonder if the color screw is actually going to work itself into the equation. Now, taking care of the restless anchorages.
That's, I think, the main priority.
Because what are we focusing on right now?
We're making sure that there is...
Get these creatures out of
here.
here.
There's no sneaky way that Karl is going to... Because the good thing about the restless anchorages, from Karl's perspective, is that they don't die to the Sunfalls or the any other sorcery speed sweepers.
Correct.
So really smart for Yuta to take them out, but also doubly punishing Karl, who doesn't have a second basic. And that was why I highlight this isn't going to turn the game around, but it is an extra way to punish players who aren't playing a lot of basics.
Sure is.
Man, I sounded smart by saying that.
You crushed it.
I really did.
No, you crushed it.
And look, a broken clock is right twice a day, and that was once, at least.
Credit where credit's due.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Deluge.
Memory deluge here.
Starting to chain these together, and if you can chain them, it's really tough to overcome. Again, we see a lot of blue-white decks over the course of Magic's history that has one big draw spell. This isn't a draw 5 cards, draw 6 cards, but what it generally is draw 2 really good cards or 2 cards that are good for the moment. And the struggle is really for Karl. Again, we've seen so many times over the course of this weekend Virtue dominating a game. It doesn't work like that here in this matchup.
So, Deep Cavern Bat, in response to the trigger, will be marched. And wow, look at that! Yuta Takahashi, read him and weep, he says, and he slams himself into this top 8. Karl Sarap recognizing that he's not going to beat the cards in Yuta's hand, and so concedes the game, and with it the match. Azorius control in the hands of Yuta Takahashi in the top 8. You love to see it.
I said I don't like blue-eye control, and I stand by that. Not my style of deck. A lot of people don't know that about me, but I love watching Yuta Takahashi play Magic, and I love watching him play on the Sunday stage with a deck that he knows and loves. We've seen him win a World Championship. We've seen his card, Fairy Mastermind, everywhere here. It makes me wonder how many times
his deck.
Beating it, but not in his deck.
On his
Doesn't
deck.
need it. Doesn't need it. Was able to finally get a stranglehold on that game. That's what we were talking about, right? Control the creatures, take care of the creature lands. The Virtue doesn't really matter very much. And then it's not about resolving a big Sphinx's Revelation or a big, Aetherling style card. It's just I've managed all the threats. I've got enough counter spells and card draw to kind of just run away with it. And that 27 life, that's a lot. But I'll take care of it eventually. And Karl said, actually, we don't need to wait that long.
I'm going to go get dinner.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Well done. We'll see you tomorrow. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Yuta Takahashi, but indeed all of our top 8 competitors tomorrow in our Sunday Magic top 8. And I hope to have your company there as well. Right now, that's it for us in the booth. I think we're heading over to Maria at the desk right now to close out the day. It's been great, even when you're daggering me, man.
Hey, Corey.
Yeah, we got
Bring it in.
We can
Bring
do
it in.
better than that. We can do better than that.